Yo, what is going on? Welcome to the very first solo episode of the Jason Goldberg is Ruining Podcasting podcast, which brings me to a very important thing you need to know about this show, first and foremost, and that is dad jokes. Okay, when you see the khaki sweater vest, that means a full-on dad joke is only seconds away, so let's do this. It's my first solo episode, which reminds me of one of my favorite jokes that I would say to your mother anytime she sings. Hey, honey, I love when you sing that song solo. So low we can't hear you. She loves that. Okay, so fun fact, in the description of that sweater vest on Amazon that I was just wearing, it literally said, this basic sweater vest is perfect for party, casual, outdoor, office working, meeting, hiking, business, and so on. So we got that going for us. All right, so if you're still watching or listening, bravo, you obviously aren't close enough to your device to turn this off. But anyways, I am Jason Goldberg. You can call me JG. I am your host. I am your guide. And quite possibly, I am your current biggest excuse for procrastinating. And on today's show, I am going to ruin the new normal. And no, I don't mean the short-lived NBC sitcom starring Nene Leakes, formerly of The Real Housewives of Atlanta. I mean the new normal, as in the mind state that our brains will sometimes kind of latch onto when things get tough. Now, this new normal concept is typically a phrase that we use to talk about the way things are going to be going forward, and it's something we need to accept or adapt to because the old way that we're used to just isn't available anymore. So not only is it a waste of time to try to get back to it, but it's also this futile effort to resist what is. Now, this may be really solid advice in certain situations, or at the very least, for some of us, it's a way to kind of mourn and maybe hopefully get over a past that we long for. But when it comes to the mind and how our thoughts work and how we deal with challenges, we got to be very aware of falling into the trap of the new normal. And when I say challenges, it could be anything. I mean, when we're in the shit, right? Like anxious, fearful, angry, stressed, uncertain, desperate, hopeless, the seven dwarves of discomfort. So let's just say, for argument's sake, maybe you're going through something right now. Maybe it's a rough patch in a relationship, maybe losing your job or having challenges with your health. Maybe the revenue in your business is down. Maybe your kids are being total dicks, or I don't know, maybe you're in the midst of a global pandemic, right? Either way, it can be really hard to just kind of stay positive or buy into this whole, everything is a gift idea when it feels like everything is a punishment. And when we're in that place, all of those distractions and setbacks and all the things that look like they're going terribly in any and all areas of our life kind of start to feel like it's our new normal. My belief is that for most sane people, having the choice, you would never choose to be stressed or anxious or fearful. So if that's the case, why don't we just choose to be happy or joyful or peaceful in these kind of less than ideal situations? Well, it's because that new normal feels, kind of for all intents and purposes, like a war is going on inside and outside of us. Now, if you were an actual soldier at war, you'd be heavily on guard. You'd be like watching your six and your ammo would be filled up and you'd be ready to shoot anything that moves. And even if peace and ease was the best way to stay alive in battle, our biology would beat out our psychology on that one, full stop, every time. See, as a soldier, you would want to be and you would need to be in this heightened state of alertness. Your cortisol levels are through the roof. Your nervous system is living in this adrenaline-filled state that's really only meant to be for things like outrunning a bear or swerving to miss a deer in the road when you're driving or diving to open the microwave door before the popcorn crosses that dangerous threshold from perfect to kernels of charcoal. And so if you resonate with any of this, feeling like your challenges have you at war with yourself, with others, or with the world at large, it's time to ruin that once and for all. And for that, we turn to everybody's favorite hunky heartthrob, the godfather of positive psychology, the magnificent Martin Seligman. Now, Seligman's research showed that there are three P's that determined how we dealt with kind of hard things. And they are personalization, permanence, and pervasiveness. Okay. But I want to focus just on those last two for now. So permanence, as you can probably guess, is thinking that a bad situation or an uncomfortable emotion or a feeling is going to last forever, while pervasiveness is thinking that all this bad stuff in one area is going to infect all areas of your life. Now, going back to our soldier at war example, I can only imagine what it feels like to be in actual battle. I've never been there before, thank God, but I'm sure it feels like, is this ever going to end? And if I screw up at all, my entire brigade is dead. That feels pretty permanent and pervasive to me. So I could get feeling that way in that situation. So what's the flip side of this? How do we as regular people deal with this? Well, the people who are able to navigate these situations and emotions more effectively, again, from Seligman's work, they see these same situations as temporary and isolated instead of permanent and pervasive. So what does this have to do with the new normal that I want you to be aware of? Well, if your lens on your setbacks and challenges is that they're permanent and pervasive, then yeah, of course, this stressful day or this bad week in business or this fight with your significant other starts to feel like life from now on, AKA the new normal, instead of life just in this moment, AKA what I'll call the temporary abnormal. When your mind gets sped up, thoughts racing, going crazy, worrying about how to fix all the things that feel broken right now, we're just living in this simple fundamental misunderstanding that a new normal is being created. All right, so what's the punchline? How do you shift out of this, right? Great question. I'm not gonna be one of those sadistic MFers that just tell you all about this and leave. I wanna give you something actionable that you can actually use. So here are 3 quick ways to get your mind right and not go gently into that good night of the fake ass new normal. Number 1, slow the F down. And I know this is hilarious to hear from me because I talk fast and I move fast, but I'm telling you, this step alone is probably 95% of the battle because a future focused or past paralyzed mind is shit at decision making. Because it's either working on flawed information, if we're focusing on memories from the past, which are never as accurate as what actually happened, or completely fabricated information if we're focusing on the future. So the present moment is the only place that action can be taken. And since that's true, the present moment is the only place that will supply you with the guidance you need to realize the permanence and pervasiveness you may be projecting onto this temporary and isolated experience. Okay, number 2 is I want you to use a PBQ to remove some of the charge of the emotions. Now, let me tell you what PBQs are. A PBQ is a prison break question. So I wrote a book called Prison Break. For those of you who don't know, check it out. It's a great book. It's all about how to shift from being a prisoner of circumstance to being a self-leader in your life. It's also filled with a ton of humor and levity, and I think you'll love it if you haven't already read it. But PBQs are something that I actually kind of developed after the book came out, so it didn't even make it into the book. And a prison break question essentially is a very short, very targeted question that will take something that feels like a problem currently and make it no longer problematic. Because here's the thing, when you deal with something and you think you have to solve a problem, then that's one way to fix things is to solve a problem. But when you're in the shit, like we're talking about here, and there's all this uncertainty and ambiguity and chaos and volatility in our lives, we're trying to sometimes fix something that we really have no frame of reference to get any kind of resolution around. So then what are we supposed to do? Well, the one option is to run ourselves in circles and go crazy trying to find the answer, or we can work on shifting the internal energy that we feel about the situation. And as you've seen this, I'm sure time and time again in your own life, when your nervous system starts to calm down, when you're not taking your thoughts so seriously, when something doesn't feel like it's this huge, huge deal anymore, your creativity takes over and you actually find solutions to problems that may have never even been available to you when you were trying to approach it from this very anxious, fearful, stressed mind. So let me tell you about how I even created PBQs to begin with. There was one day where I was completely in the shit. I mean, no matter what I did, no matter what tools of my own I was using or anybody else's tools, I was going back to highlights in books. I was going back to my own journal. I was going back to things that I teach other people, and nothing was working because I was trying to approach solving the problem of feeling sadness, right? Sadness was a problem for me in that moment. And so I was trying all these tools to get rid of the sadness because it was a problem in my life. And for whatever reason, I had already created this PBQ concept for some other things, and I had been practicing those questions, and it's really, really powerful to use. And so I said, you know what? I got one shot left. This is all I got. I'm going to try a PBQ. If this doesn't work, I don't know what else to do. I had meditated. I had gone for a walk. I had done all the things, and I could not shift this energy of my sadness and how dark and deep and heavy it felt. So the format of a prison break question is pretty simple. It's essentially, if I knew X, what would I do? If I knew X to be true, and we're not saying it is, but if I knew X to be true, how might I show up differently in this situation? How might I respond or react differently? How may I just show up differently? What might I do or be differently if I knew this thing? And so I sat there and thought about what would a PBQ be here that would be really helpful, right? To make the thing that's currently a problem, my sadness, no longer problematic. And the question that came up for me was this, and this specific question is one that you can definitely use if you're feeling the pull of the new normal kind of sucking you into the quicksand of despair. And the PBQ was this. If I knew that this sadness that I'm feeling right now was going to last for exactly 10 minutes, and then at minute 11, it was going to disappear on its own, but if I knew for a fact that it was going to last for exactly 10 minutes, how would I treat myself for the next 10 minutes? And when I really sat with that question for a minute, what came up for me was, well, if I knew it was just going to go away on its own, then I guess I would stop fighting to try to make it go away. I would stop trying to do all these things to shift it and change my thinking and to reframe things. I would be a lot gentler on myself. Man, I would be so much more compassionate with myself while I'm dealing with this and stop beating myself up so much for all this. And when I asked myself that question and those answers occurred to me in that moment, I'm not saying that miraculously all the sadness went away, but I will say that immediately I felt a little bit lighter. And honestly, within about 10 minutes or so, I felt probably 50 or 60% less sadness than I had felt just 10 minutes earlier. So I want you to play with that. I want you to use that for yourself. Whatever is feeling really stressful or fearful or filled with despair or whatever it is right now for you, think of a PBQ question you can use that's, if I knew X, how would I show up differently? And maybe it's the exact one I just said. If I knew this fear of never being able to find another job was only going to last for the next 10 minutes, how would I treat myself for those next 10 minutes? And maybe 10 minutes feels too small for you and you want to say an hour, and that's fine too. If I knew this anxiety I have around what's going to happen in my relationship was going to magically disappear in the next hour, how would I treat myself for the next hour? Sit with that question and see what changes for you. Okay, and number 3, and this is one of my favorites, and you'll probably hear me say this a lot throughout the course of this entire show. Number 3 is to remember there's nothing you've been through that you haven't gotten through. I'm going to say that again because the simplicity of it may just kind of wash over you and you say, no, whatever, that's just personal growth bullshit. There's nothing you've been through that you haven't gotten through. And I know that to be true because you're here right now listening to this or watching this. All you have is evidence that no matter what the world has thrown at you, whether you believe the universe is kind, whether you think it's a gift or not, I'm not asking you to get hyper spiritual or do any spiritual bypassing. I'm literally asking you to look at the evidence from your life that shows you time and time again that no matter what you have been through, you have always gotten through it. It may seem trite. It may seem overly personal growthy, but I want you to look at this from a very logical, rational standpoint. That you have nothing but evidence that your creativity and your spirit is completely unbreakable, no matter what situation you've been through. Now listen, I know a lot of people are saying we are living in unprecedented times with everything that's going on in the world right now. But that's only because the news is focusing primarily on one element of our times. The truth of the matter is that we're always living in unprecedented times because even if something resembles what we've experienced in the past, we never truly know how anything is going to unfold in our lives. You are a pro at living in ambiguity and uncertainty because those are the basic building blocks of life and growth and creation and evolution. So don't let the outside world or the inside world, your thinking, fool you into giving into any kind of new normal that doesn't serve you. Slow down, use the tools and concepts I shared with you here today. And yeah, it may take a little bit of time, but you're going to get back to the present moment where your incredible wisdom and experience and spirit is going to help guide you to do exactly what you need to do next. That's all I got for you today, folks. If you love this episode, please make sure to follow us on whatever platform you're listening to it on. Give us a 5-star review and a rating. So helpful for us, especially starting this podcast. Give us a great review if you love the show. Tell all your friends about us. Screenshot this and post it on Instagram and tag me in it so I can send you some love back. DM me with any of your feedback or any questions, and let's keep ruining shit together. Sending you guys so much love and cannot wait to see you again super soon. Peace.